This is a call to order of the Mount Healthy Board of Education meeting for July 20th, 2020. This is a virtual public meeting of the Board of Education in compliance with the Ohio Department of Health stay-at-home order. Could I have a roll call, please, Ms. Burke?
Yes. Mrs. Bryant?
Here.
Mrs. Ellis?
Present.
Mr. Glenn?
Present.
Mr. Kilgore?
Here.
Dr. Turner?
I'm here.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll dispense with the Pledge of Allegiance this evening since we're all in different places. So item 3 is discussion of the agenda. Board members have had the opportunity to look over the agenda for this evening. Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as written?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to say moved by Mr. Kilgore and seconded by Mrs. Ellis. She got in just a little ahead. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant?
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our next item is the reading and signing of minutes. This would be the minutes of the regular board meeting held on June 22nd, 2020. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as written?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant?
Unmute. I had to find a button. I'm sorry. Yes.
Mrs. Ellis?
Yes.
Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore?
Yes.
Dr. Turner?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 6 on our agenda is special orders. 6A is Mount Healthy Teachers Association. Ms. Wakefield, do you have anything to share with us?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Turner. I just wanted to thank Dr. Hawkins, Mrs. House, Mr. Lindsay, and Mr. Buckheim, and everybody else who has been working on the reopening plan. I know that it has been a daunting task, but we appreciate their diligence and their transparency and cooperative effort with us. And we look forward to implementing how we can this fall.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And
I would like to add, I love those earrings.
Oh, thanks. Ms. Holland, a junior high teacher, makes them.
Good to know. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, item 6B, communications, announcements, public input. I don't believe we have anything. Dr. Hawkins, are you aware of anything?
We do not.
Okay, item 7, vocational board report. Ms. Ellis?
Did anybody get the report? I tried something. I didn't know whether it would work or not, but anyway, it don't matter. Check your email sometime later. Okay, the restart for 2020, President, CEO Harry Snyder presented Great Oaks' plan to start the school year for fall 2020 with a blended learning model for the first quarter. Students will be divided into 2 groups, with the A group on campus Monday and Thursday, and the B group on campus Tuesday and Friday, with Wednesday as a remote learning. Remote assistance day for all. Half of our level 1 students and half of our level 2 students will be assigned to each group, A and B. With this schedule, students will be involved in on-campus learning 40% of the week, with 60% of learning taking place remotely. The AB schedule will be enforced for the first quarter with the intent of going to a full schedule with the start of the second quarter on October the 19th with masks, social distancing, and enhanced cleaning. This starts the year with a smaller group of students in the building each day. It also ensures that the proper health and cleaning protocols are in place and working properly, and that students and staff are practicing safe and healthy behavior. Program moves. The Aspire program, which provides high school equivalency classes and English with speakers of other languages classes, is moving from the Scarlet Oaks East Wing to the Instructional Resource Center building at Scarlet Oaks. The Health Professional Academy will move into space formerly occupied by Aspire. This will give area adult students more opportunity for healthcare classes, both day and evening. The Live Oaks campus expansion. Mr. Snyder showed the board plans for renovating and additions to the Live Oaks campus. The school is due to be updated and has a large potential population from affiliated schools. The construction is set to begin in 2021 and will add classroom and lab space while creating a more secure entrance and better internal traffic flow. The Acorn Center at Scarlet Oaks. Great Oaks is currently discussing options with community partners to manage the daycare facility at Scarlet Oaks that would provide year-round service. And that's the end of the report.
Thank you. Our next item is the legislative report. I have a few items here. First, on the CARES Act and Coronavirus Relief Fund. The Ohio Controlling Board has approved a request for an additional $100 million for K through 12 schools. This will be in addition to the $440 million already allocated. The funds may only be used for pandemic-related items such as protective equipment, cleaning, and remote learning. As currently calculated by the state, Mount Healthy will receive just under $200,000 from this additional $100 million fund. That comes out to $64 per pupil. A funding update. The Ohio Department of Education has announced that the 3.7% budget reduction for K through 12 education for fiscal year 2020 will continue in fiscal year 2021. It is anticipated that these reductions will be applied in the same manner as the fiscal year 2020 budget reductions. And finally, House Bill 606. This is a bill that seeks to prohibit civil lawsuits against businesses, the state, local governments, and schools, among other entities, for injury, loss to person or property, or death due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Senate has passed House Bill 606, which is now being considered for a concurrence vote in the House. The Senate has introduced a similar bill, Senate Bill 308. And that's all I have for the legislative report. So item 9 on our agenda, we move on to the report of the treasurer. And tonight we have Jennifer Burke sitting in for Becky Brooks.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. I'll start with item A, and that is an informational item. The treasurer, Rebecca Brooks, and myself, we completed the Ohio Attorney General Sunshine Law training, which is the training that is required for us to handle Ohio public records request and open meeting laws, which is required by the Ohio Revised Code. So we complete that training. We need to have that training once per year. So we both have now have done that. The second item, which is also an informational item, is Mount Healthy applied for the E-rate, which is an E-rate application for our broadband services. It's a 5-year agreement for the service equipment and licensures, as well as the access points, providing new access points for the district. The E-rate was approved, and we have now submitted the purchase orders. Item B is, do I need to ask for discussion?
No.
Okay.
So Yeah, you go on to item B and then I handle the discussion bits.
Okay, thank you. Recommendation to accept the schedule of bills for June of 2020.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Do we have any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item C is a recommendation to accept the financial statement for June of 2020.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. Item D is a recommendation to authorize the treasurer to create the following new account. We are requesting to create an 004 fund, which is an account that will, a fund that will handle all the expenditures for the new early learning center. So we will gather all the expenses within that fund.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion?
What's the cost of this?
Mr. Kilgore, it does not cost anything to create the fund. So what will happen is when we do the borrowing with the bonds, when that money is received, we will receipt the money into the 004 fund rather than receipting it into the general fund. So it's just a separate fund so that we can keep track of all the revenues, which will be borrowing, and then all of the expenditures in one place so that it's not mixed in with the general fund.
Okay.
Any further discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you. You
Thank
did great.
Thank you.
Next up is our superintendent's report. Dr. Hawkins.
Thank you, Dr. Turner. So tonight we have some information that is exciting, all of our principals, and I just want to give a special thank you to Ms. House, Mr. Lindsay, Mr. Buckheim, Mr. Morris, and Ms. Gray. They have used their teams and teachers to call families in our district to help them select what choice they would like to have for the 2021 school year. So we have those numbers in, and we have received at least 40% of students in each grade level in our district have chosen to be remote learners. That means that the remaining students will be able to come back into our buildings Monday through Fridays, grades 1 through 12, and we will be able to space them out appropriately so that all remaining students will be able to have a traditional school day. And I sent the actual numbers to the board a little bit earlier today. We recognize that we often have new families come into our district, early September or late August. So now that we have these numbers, we're going to be working with the principals and the rest of the administrative staff to create class lists so that we will know where there is space when students come and they choose to enroll in our district. We'll be able to either allow them to learn remotely or to have a spot in one of our classrooms. We will also be working with our teaching staff to match up the teachers as either an in-person teacher or a remote learning teacher so that they can fully embrace that role instead of having to split their time. So we're excited about our numbers. We're excited about the response that we had from our community. And I think this gives us the foundation that we can start adequately planning for the next school year. So questions about our new plan for our new school year?
I don't have a question, but I'm going to second what Mrs. Wakefield said. I'm just really impressed at the job your team has done in a fairly short amount of time. And I've seen, it seems like a lot of other districts aren't bothering to ask anyone their opinion. And the fact that you've surveyed parents and surveyed teachers and are making sure that everyone feels comfortable with this, I think you've done a fabulous job.
Thank you. I appreciate that. The other informational item is about the Khajiit devices. The Khajiits are a mobile hotspot, and it's specifically for education. So it allows our students that do not have internet at home to have a hotspot in their actual home. Several students can use it at the same time. So if you have a family of 4 students, they could all use the same hotspot. I want to thank Mr. Burdett for his work on this. He has just been fantastic getting the purchase order in place and making sure that our order is in so that we can have the Khajiit devices. And what's important about the Khajiit devices and how it's different than if we were to go to Verizon and buy a mobile hotspot, we can actually make sure that our students are only on educational sites. We can track how they're using it. So if maybe they need more data or less data, we can make that adjustment. And it just gives us a better overview of how they're using it for school. So they can't stream videos or be on other sites that the school district would not find appropriate. So Khajiit has been great about giving us that ability to do that. So again, I'm very thankful for Mr. Burdett and his team. They've been working to get the Chrome devices ready and to get our Khajiit devices ready so that on the surveys, when families indicated that they needed internet, we will be able to get that to them quickly. So did anybody have any questions about the Khajiits?
Do we know the cost?
Yes, the cost ended up being a little bit over $100,000, and we can use CARES Act money for that cost.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. So the next item B is a recommendation to accept the bus routes and bus stops for the 2021 school year, with the authorization for the superintendent to change routes as may become necessary based on, students that are remote versus in person.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept the bus routes?
I'll move.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion?
The only question I have, if the COVID virus expands from what it is now, is there a offsetting cost for the transportation? So if we don't use it, do we pay for it?
I'm not sure. Jen, do you know if that happened last year?
Actually, for Peterman, we continue to pay for the Peterman services per our contract.
Okay.
And that also is eligible for us to even though it happened in last school year, we can still reallocate those costs to the CARES Act funds, because that was one of the purposes that the CARES Act was set up for, was continuation of payment of contracts.
And I'm guessing that even though fewer students will be attending school, we also have to social distance on the buses, so it won't end up being as much a cut in the number of students that were, not a cut in the number of buses, because you can't put as many students per bus.
Right, that's correct.
Any other discussion? Could I have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
No, I'm gonna vote no because I felt it needs to be prorated. If we're not using this service, we shouldn't be charged for a service we're not using, so my vote would be no.
Dr. Turner,
Yes.
Okay. Item C is the recommendation to enter into the service agreement with Peterman to provide the transportation service for our special needs students.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion?
Yeah, it's gonna cover the next three items, C, D, and E.
Mhm.
We have these vans now, I think, 4, 5, or 6 of them. Are we using those to transport our students? I know that's what they're intended for, but are they being used for that purpose?
We have been. I know that Dr. Harris has been looking at which students need to use those vans, and they have been trying to use them the most efficiently by putting as many family groups in the van so we can transport more students. The vans are very difficult because of spacing. So we found that using them for families actually is more beneficial to the district than putting them, for instance, on a bus.
I could also add to that, Dr. Hawkins, that we also use the van sometimes for very high needs students that where typically we would have been being charged a rather high rate, maybe UTS or Medicare. So we go ahead and we transport those children ourselves for savings.
Right. Thank you, Jen.
Any further discussion? Can we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
D is the recommendation to approve Medicare Transportation, Inc. as a provider for special needs, homeless, and foster student transportation.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item E is the recommendation to enter into contract with Universal Transportation Systems, UTS, as a provider for special needs, homeless, and foster student transportation, pending the approval of our attorney.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item F is the recommendation to approve the Mount Healthy Junior Senior High School Student Handbook for the 2021 school year.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Item G is the recommendation to approve the elementary parent student handbook for the 2020-2021 school year.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item H is the second reading for the recommended Mount Healthy Board of Education bylaw and policy changes, 3120.04, employment of substitutes.
Okay. I don't know that we actually vote on that. We'll go ahead and vote on it just to be
Okay.
sure. I think second readings, well, I'm not sure. All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Ellis. I'll say seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Item I is the recommendation to appoint the following as a purchasing agent for calendar year 2020. And that is Dr. Valerie Hawkins, and that would be adding me as one of the purchasing agents, not the only purchasing agent.
Do I have a motion?
so moved,
Second.
I think that was Ms. Bryant made the
Oh.
motion and Mrs. Ellis.
No, it was.
That was Kilgore.
Okay. Mr. Kilgore made the motion and Mrs. Ellis seconded. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Item J is the recommendation to purchase desk shields for the elementary buildings. The total cost is $46,990. This is paid for with CARES Act funds, and the shield would be in the front and to the side of the students for our students in grades K through 3.
And that's so that they don't have to keep a mask on as long
That's
as they're
right.
sitting at their desks.
Right. They would only have to use a mask when they might get up to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
so moved,
Second.
Moved by Mr. Kilgore, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? Could we take a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item K is the recommendation to suspend pay-to-play fees for the 2020-2021 school year.
Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Glenn, seconded by Mrs. Ellis. Any discussion? So Dr. Hawkins, do you want to explain why we're doing this
Yes.
again this year?
So many of our families have been impacted negatively with their financial situation due to the stresses of the COVID-19 virus. So the recommendation was to suspend that for another year. Initially, it's my understanding it was suspended last year to encourage more students to participate in extracurricular activities, but the spring sports were canceled. And so there wasn't clear information as far as if that had the desired effect. So one, encouraging more students, and secondly, because of the financial hardships that our families have experienced, we would like to suspend that for another school year.
Thank you. I don't remember if I asked for motions yet.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I'm not writing the things down because it's too hard to do that and all this at the same time. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Item L is the recommendation that all 12-month employees receiving vacation be able to convert up to 5 days of vacation to their daily rate of pay on an annual basis. And the 12-month employees are employees that are on a 260-day contract. So we're just making that option available to all employees that have a 260-day contract.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Item M is the recommendation to declare the following students as impractical to transport, and we have them listed there. This is Cincinnati Hills Christian Academy, and it's beyond the distance that we normally transport.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
and Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got a question though.
Yes.
Dr. Hawkins, did you find out where it was located at?
Mhm. It's in Montgomery, Ohio, right near Harper's Point. It's-
Okay, I know where it's at. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Item N is the recommendation to approve renovation cost from Skeet Humphreys Construction LLC for Revelation Missionary Baptist Church, 7717 Harrison Avenue, Mount Healthy, Ohio, for the Life Academy. The total cost, $47,940.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Ms. Bryant. Any discussion?
Are there
Yes.
going to be any other charges for construction other than the 47,000?
There will be some. This is what has come into this
Do you have any idea?
this date. Around, it was my understanding it was going to end up being around 100,000 total when they're complete with it.
Yep. Who decided to hire Skeet Humphreys? Was it us or the church?
I believe that it was a bid and we had to take the most competitive bid. Jenny could give more details on that. I can check into that from her.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested in knowing what the bid process is.
Mhm.
I saw that Skeet Humphreys was all the way in Milford. I know there
Okay.
were probably some local companies that could have
Mhm.
done it.
I'll ask Jenny the specifics related to the church. Normally they bid it out and whatever bid comes in as the best bid is who you go with, no matter where they're located. But I did find out Josh has been great working with the companies, and we are on track to have all of the renovations finished on August the 1st, which gives Mr. Burdett plenty of time to get the computers hooked up and ready to go for the new school year.
Okay. Yeah, good news. Good news. Yeah, I'm just interested in learning more about the bidding process.
Yeah, I'll get more information for you, Mr. Glenn, and send that to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any further discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item O is the recommendation to approve an agreement for services from Edmentum for digital courseware to support intervention, acceleration, and credit recovery. The total cost is $82,988.50.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item P is the recommendation to purchase iReady from Curriculum Associates for online reading and math instruction for students. This includes gifted identification, third grade reading alternative test, universal screener for grades K through 12, and professional development for teachers. The total cost is $70,774.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
yes,
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item Q is the recommendation to adopt the Mount Healthy City School job description for security supervisor. And there was a separate attachment. I did want to note that in the description, the security supervisor will also deal with visitors to our campus, and that was left off. So that will be added into it. It won't just be students, faculty, it also will include visitors as well.
Okay.
I think
Sure.
she sent out a second one that covered that, I think.
Okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there was a second that LaVonda sent out saying there was an update, and that was around 4 something that she sent it out.
Okay.
I got a question. Oh, okay. Well, go on.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion?
Is this person hiring the people that are going to work with him, or are we dealing with a very separate company that would be that this person would supervise?
The security supervisor will be developing a team that we will hire to work on our campus. Becky was fantastic. We sat down and we looked at what we paid to outside security agencies and figured out how many people we could hire internally. The power of having people that are in Mount Healthy and committed to Mount Healthy is that the security team will be expected to really develop deep relationships with our students. And that is very beneficial when you start looking at appropriate behavior and lessening fights and things like that in the school district. So this person would be the first to hire, and then we will be developing a team with the expectations of positive students interaction, as well as things as how to effectively break up a fight and to intervene in those types of situations.
Now, is this person training also?
Mm-hmm.
Or,
Yes.
or are we, see what I'm trying to differentiate is this someone we're just hiring to take care of our security, or are they bringing along, do they have a security company?
Mm-hmm.
Or are we, because I want to make sure, like the things you mentioned, that this
Mm-hmm.
person is, they know what they're doing, and they know what to expect from the people that
Yes.
they'll be working with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a great question. This person is, I can tell you a little bit about this person because I know them. It's Tanya Terrell, and she has been in school security for 20 years and has worked at the high school level at Princeton for 20 years, has been very successful as a security leader at Princeton. They do not have a team. They do not have an outside company, but she has been trained in effective security measures, from relationship building to CPI training, which is the effective way to intervene in a situation to de-escalate. And then if it did turn into a fight, how to properly break up the fight. There's specific training for that. So she would be working with me and developing a team of people that would be Mount Healthy employees. And we would be giving them CPI training. If they have not already been trained, Tanya has already been trained in CPI, and working to strengthen those relationships. And I think this will have a very positive benefit, especially at the junior and senior high, on the type, and just reinforcing the types of behaviors that we want to see at the high school. We want to see strong relationships, and we want to see less and less physical altercations.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you said she is going to be an employee of Mount Healthy.
Yes.
Is she Ohio certified? I know I've been asking this question for 6 months, and I think Dr. Turner was going to check on it a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Are they Ohio certified in security?
I will have to check. I know that she is CPI trained. That's, I will check on that.
Okay.
So Ohio certified for security?
Correct. I think they're like level 1, 2, and 3.
If she's not, I am, like I said, I know Tanya. She is very positive, and I am sure she will have no problem going through that training.
Okay, and what about first aid training?
She has been first aid, CPR, and CPI trained already.
And the people that she's hiring are going to be full-time employees.
They will be.
Going to have the same amount of training.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And no weapons.
No weapons. No weapons. And that's where, Tanya actually reached out to me and said, I would love to come to the board meeting. I said, well, it's virtual. So she is a very positive person. And it was interesting. I wasn't even aware of this, but Mount Healthy took a visit to Princeton last year, and she gave them a tour of the school. And when some people saw her name in our listing, they called me and said, we were so impressed with her and the way that she talked about how to lessen fights and intervene with students in a positive way without weapons, really developing those strong relationships with the students and the faculty to make that positive culture in our school.
Will they be wearing some type of uniform to distinguish them from?
Normally they do, and we could decide on what that would look like. Normally they do, like a black shirt with a Mount Healthy logo, but they will have some type of uniform. We have not picked that out yet, but they will. Mm-hmm.
And just to jump in for a second, not that it really matters, but Mr. Kilgore said that I was going to look into the certification, but I think you meant Dr. Cosby, not Dr. Turner.
Oh, no. Okay. It doesn't really make a difference.
Okay, any further discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
I have a question. So we will just use this person and their staff as our security. We won't use any like police services from Mount Healthy or Springfield Township?
Right now, we do not have an SRO in the building. I was told in the past that the police services did help at ball games. So we are still looking at that, but in our buildings, it will be all of our security people, and all of our security people will be at all of our home events. And so then after we look at that, if the district feels like we also need police presence, we could definitely reach out to add that. But the goal is that you have security people that know our students, and they'll be in the stands and they'll be all around. looking for situations that could result negatively towards our students. So they will be at all home events.
Well, and there was not really an issue, but a change in policy with Aegis, who we used to use, right?
Yes, there was. So Aegis had been used in the past, and they changed at some point, that was before me, where they had told their employees they were not allowed to intervene if there was a physical altercation. And they did not allow them to be CPI trained, which is how to effectively intervene in a fight and break up a fight. So that was a concern to me as superintendent, because I feel like our security people should be intervening to try to prevent those situations. And from my understanding, they had a lot of turnover with some of their employees, and that constant turnover is very difficult for making the strong relationships that we want to see between our security personnel, our staff, our administration, and our students.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Great. Item R is the recommendation to adopt the security supervisor salary schedule.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item S is the recommendation to adopt the consent agenda, and all of the items in the consent agenda are listed on the next several pages.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Bryant, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion?
No, it was Miss Ellis. Wasn't
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. It's hard to keep track when I'm not looking at people's mouths moving. Any discussion?
I did have a question. Dr. Hawkins, did she get everybody that she was trying to hire for the various positions? I know that y'all had said that some of them weren't hired yet. Or are we still looking for people?
No, we have filled all of our positions and we are ready to start the school year. So we were just waiting on Tanya for our last hire, and she called me, I believe it was Friday, and accepted the position. So that finished off our positions.
Okay.
Great. Any further discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 11 is addendum to the agenda. We do not have any. 12 is special orders. We do not have any. 13 is open discussion by the Board of Education. Anyone have anything they want to discuss?
Just for clarification. So when the kids go back to school, the building will be 30% capacity, and everyone else is remote learning?
The building, depending on the grade, some of the grades are 30%, especially at South Elementary, but it depends on the grade and how many selected remote learning. It ranges from mid 40s to up to, like you mentioned, some grade levels are 70%. So it depends on the individual grade. But because all of our grades were at least 40%, that's how we can bring back the rest of the students. The only, Mr. Glenn, I'm glad you mentioned this because I wanted to mention it early. The only level that we do not have accurate data for is kindergarten, because we actually had more people select what they wanted to do, remote or in person, than we have kindergarten enrollment. So we're encouraging our parents to come and enroll their children. They told us their preference, but they still have not enrolled their students. So we're going to be working on that to make sure that that is accurate.
Okay.
And-
So it isn't the, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It isn't the, some students go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, others go Thursday, Friday. Instead
Right.
it's Monday through Friday.
It's Monday through Friday for all students, because we have such a large percentage that chose remote learning. We can now space them out 6 feet apart and accommodate all of the rest of the students Monday through Friday.
Understood. Thank you.
And we will be requiring masks on students, except for those younger grades that will have
Right.
the shields and cleaning and all of that stuff. Okay. And Dr. Hawkins mentioned to me earlier that we had about an 80% response rate
Yeah.
on
Over
the
80.
surveys,
Mhm.
which is really impressive.
All-time record.
Yeah. So,
And that,
Very
you know,
good.
again, credit to all of the principals for their hard work, and teachers. You know, Miss Wakefield volunteered. There were several teachers that volunteered to really reach out. Mr. Burdette had all calls going out every day, reminding parents to pick their selection. Miss House, I don't know if you saw it, but she even put things up at UDF and the Dairy Bar where there was a QR code, and you could just take your phone and take a picture of it and fill out our survey online. So if you'd forgotten about it, you were getting an ice cream, you could stop in and do that. And I think Miss Bryan has something to tell us about the Dairy Bar tonight.
I do have one request. Is there any way we could put like thank you heroes on our signs out in front of the different
Yes.
schools and stuff? I know everybody else is doing it, and I go up and down
Yes.
Hamilton Avenue. You know, I think the nurses and EMTs and doctors, you know,
Yes, thank you. I will get with Mr. Burdette about that.
I believe the sign outside South Elementary is still not working, but when it gets fixed.
I was just going to share with everyone that the Mount Healthy Dairy Bar is in the running for the best dairy location in the state of Ohio. And if you would go to the Dairy Bar's Facebook page, it will give you a link where you can vote. And as of yesterday, the Dairy Bar was in first place. Today, they're slipping a little bit. So we need everybody to get out there and vote every day.
So you go to the Dairy Bar, what?
Facebook page.
Oh, Facebook.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I was gonna say, I'm just joking. Everybody gets a free ice cream with a vote.
I'm sure they'll appreciate you offering that on their behalf.
Well, I just go by there every other day. I don't care that I have to pay for it, but I go by and get my ice cream cone.
Yeah.
As a matter
Okay,
of fact, when I get off of here, I'm gonna go get me an ice cream.
Hey,
Hey, I might see you there, Ms. Ellis.
Okay.
Anything else anyone wants to discuss? Okay, the next board meeting will be August 17th at 6 p.m. We do need to decide whether we want to have that one remote or in person. I've been a big advocate of doing them remotely for safety reasons up till now, But I also feel like if we're having our children come back into the buildings in August, then it's time for us to come together and have our meetings in person too. So I'm fine with us doing the meetings at the board office in August. What's everyone else think?
Can we do it like we did when we did the interviews, but just not have the public there?
Yes. So we could still live stream and record them, and we could be spaced apart. Yeah, that should be fine. Because that's how we did our first one after I think, after the pandemic started, if I'm remembering correctly. What's everyone else think?
When is the first day of school?
August the 20th for students.
Okay.
So that would be, our next board meeting would be that Monday, and they'd be starting later in the week. Everyone okay with meeting in person?
I am.
Yep.
Yep, there it is.
Okay, so we will be in person. We will not be having the public present, but we will live stream and we will record it just as always. We also need to amend the treasurer's current contract, which was a separate attachment, but I'm not sure that actually went out.
Yeah, it was with the salary of the security person.
Oh, okay.
There was 2 pages. with that.
I didn't scroll down. Okay.
Yeah, there was a second page.
So this was something that was actually supposed to happen a while back and didn't. So we met with Ms. Brooks and agreed that we would finally get around to amending her current contract. So do I have a motion to do that?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Glenn. Any discussion? Could we have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
And finally, item C under discussion of the board, a motion to appoint a delegate and alternate to the delegate to the Assembly of the Ohio School Boards Association's Capital Conference in Columbus, Ohio, November 8th through November 10th, 2020. Now, this is something that we go to every year. It's an incredible event. We learn an awful lot. As of right now, they are hoping to have it in person, but they are also preparing to do it as a distanced event if it comes to that, if things are still bad by November. So this is the person who goes to the very stimulating meeting that they have about all the policies and things for OSBA. Do I have a volunteer to be the delegate?
I will.
Okay. And do I have a volunteer to be the alternate? That sounds like no. I will reluctantly volunteer to be the alternate, and Mrs. Ellis, you better show up so I don't have to.
Well, I'll be there if they have it, or if they do it remotely, because you got to vote on those amendments that there's always some.
It's very important work. I sat through the meeting one time and hope never to do it again. So, all right. Ms. Ellis as delegate, me as alternate. Do I have a motion?
Don't move.
Second.
I'll say Mrs. Ellis. Do I have a second?
I did. Second.
Okay. So moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. Any discussion? Everybody sure they don't want to volunteer to be that alternate?
Mhm.
Okay, could I have a vote, please?
Mrs. Bryant,
Yes.
Mrs. Ellis,
Yes.
Mr. Glenn,
Yes.
Mr. Kilgore,
Yes.
Dr. Turner.
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 15 is adjournment. Do I
I
have
have
a
a quick
motion to
question.
adjourn?
I got one last question.
Oh, go ahead.
With our board meeting being in person August 17th, if a board member came into contact with someone that had COVID, how would we do that? Would they miss the meeting or would they be virtual?
So under the current state guidelines, we still can do virtual meetings. So if something like that were to happen, or for any other reason a board member couldn't attend, currently anyone can still attend virtually. Now, when the COVID crisis is over, they might go back to the old rules saying that we can't.
Mm-hmm.
But as of right now, the rules say that anyone who wants to attend virtually can. So that's definitely an option.
Okay.
So Dr. Turner, are you saying that some of us could be there and someone could actually be at home? A combination of the two?
Yes. So we don't have to all be virtual or all be in the same room. The only rule is that if we all begin the meeting together, if someone is virtual and they drop out of the meeting because of their Wi-Fi connection or something like that, we can't continue until they rejoin. But that's really the only limitation.
I volunteer as tribute to keep everyone safe. Participate virtually.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we could, let's just double check here. So I'm willing to do it in person. I don't feel strongly one way or another. Mrs. Ellis, do you have a preference?
I'd rather do it in person.
Mr. Kilgore?
Makes no difference.
Ms. Bryant?
Virtual from home.
Okay. That wasn't a very decisive vote. Like I said, I've seen some criticism online of, for instance, newscasters or news commentators saying kids should be back in school, and people pointing out, yeah, the people who are sitting there saying kids should be back in school are all doing their shows from home. So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, just while on the one hand, I do want to do things as safely as we can, like I said, on the other, if we're asking our students and teachers to be in person, I'm willing at this point to say that I'm at least okay with being in person too. We'll take all precautions and all that. Mr. Kilgore, what did you want to say?
I didn't remember when school actually starts, the date.
For students, 8/20.
8/20.
For students.
So our meeting will be before the kids come back to school, right? Oh.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. And all kids won't be in school.
That's true too. Would we rather keep the meeting virtual for August?
Yeah, why don't we do that now? I think at least I got the swing of the system we're now using. So, hey, and I do look good on the screen.
We've all got the hang of it now.
There you go.
Okay.
I prefer in person myself. Okay.
Okay. Well, let's say for August, we'll go ahead and do distance again, do virtual again, and then we'll see what we think about the September meeting. Who knows what might be going on by then. Okay.
All right.
I think that's. Did someone start to say something?
I said, all right.
Oh, okay. All right. So item 15, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Moved by Mrs. Ellis, seconded by Mr. Kilgore. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think that was everyone.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much. And Dr. Hawkins, thank you to you and your team for all the work you've been putting in for the past few I almost said months. It feels like months, doesn't it?
It does, but
Weeks.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night. Y'all have a good one.
You too.
You too.
I don't know who I'll see at the dairy bar.
okay.
Steven.